I'm always looking for a differentiator. You always have to be different. And that means you have to constantly explore different ways of recruiting and staying in front of people.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRI Network, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vince Holt with the Talent Hunters. Today, we have with us Mike Santiago, CEO of the top-tier talent advisors located in Cookeville, Tennessee. 23 years Mike has been focused on the manufacturing world. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
So, Mike, to kick this thing off, 23 years is a long time. Tell us a little bit.
You're making me feel older already.
You'll never get here, I promise you. Please tell us a little bit about your background and really what got you to where you are today.
Well, my background really came out of telecommunications. The last position I had in the corporate world was I was vice president general manager of a telecommunications division. And I left that and I was kind of searching for something else to do. I wanted to run my own business, and a friend was in recruiting. And he seemed to be doing pretty well. So he invited me into the business. I spent a month with him and decided, you know what? I'll buy an MRI franchise. And that's kind of how it started, really. And long journey later, we started the business September 1st, 2001. And 10 days later, 9/11 happened. So it wasn't the best year to start a business, but we got through it. And here we are.
Well, it's easy to say it wasn't the best year because, American disaster, what can you say? But that just prepared you for 2008, for COVID. You learned how to deal with everything that could be a roadblock to you, don't you feel?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The 9/11 scenario was an interesting scenario, but it also made us switch lines of business, too, which made it even more challenging. And then I think there's been 3 or 4 recessions since then. So a lot of us, that have been at this long are pros at understanding how to navigate that.
So in 23 years, you've developed your company. What differentiates your organization from the people that compete with you in the manufacturing world?
Great question. I'm always looking for a differentiator. You always have to be different. And that means you have to constantly explore different ways of recruiting and staying in front of people. And some of the ways we've done that, for example, in the last 2 years, I've done a lot of video. And video really differentiates us quite a bit in recruiting and with clients and in marketing as well. So video has helped that. A lot of value-added capabilities as well that you can offer clients, such as, basically assessments, working with clients and integrating with their HR staff and having weekly meetings and showing them current pipelines on their job, things that other recruiters are not doing that clients really, really appreciate. So always have to be looking at different ways and different technologies. And that's helped us, I think, over the years.
Are you using AI at all?
Yeah, sure. We use ChatGPT constantly, all the time. I don't think I send a proposal out or a candidate profile without running it through ChatGPT first and letting it rewrite what I write. Because I'm not Ernest Hemingway by any imagination. So we definitely use AI also in our ATS.
So how did you overcome the stigma with the technology as fast as it's growing and so forth? Telephone, but you're using AI, you're using Chat GPT. How did you overcome that and really throw yourself into it?
overcome using AI or the fear of using it? Is that what you mean?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You don't really look at it that way. At least I don't look at it that way. I look at it as productivity situation. Right now I'm a single desk. I have one PC, so I'm a single desk now. So I'm trying to get done multiple things in a day. So I'm looking at how can I be more successful doing less myself by being more efficient. And ChatGPT was just one of those things, and there are other things you can use as well, automation, email automation, sequencing, things of that nature that really help you become more productive. And so that's kind of how I look at it. I'm not worried about AI or anything like that or any technology. It's just when I look at something, I say, oh, wow, I could have that and I wouldn't have to do this. That's how I look at it. And that's the best way to look at it.
So what if, put it into my simple brain, technology has really become another employee of yours to help you succeed?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. But there's another challenge to the whole thing, too. That challenge is, there's so many of them out there. I think I get, and this is probably every owner in the MRI network, I bet they probably get 15 or 20 or 30 emails a day of, hey, we've got this great technology that cuts your recruiting capabilities by this much. I mean, you could go out of business on monthly subscriptions on all this stuff. So you have to kind of be careful of that. I mean, you could over-automate, right? So you have to do what's realistic, what you can really afford and do what's realistic on the whole thing.
So since we've come out of COVID, because everybody took a big hiccup in COVID, since we came out of COVID, what drove your success to where it is today?
Well, COVID was pretty rough. Everybody knew, hit the recruiting industry pretty hard. It really took going back to other clients that I hadn't done business with for a while and trying to tap that, because getting new business and new business development during COVID was very difficult. But what was more difficult is even get candidates. I mean, you couldn't put candidates on a plane, right? So how do you do an interview? So really trying to harvest local candidates and also stepping down a level, where there are more positions versus being at a mid-tier or an executive level, going down in fees and down in position, where manufacturing companies need supervisors. There's 5 or 6 in a plant, right? Versus a production manager, there's 1. So taking a step back and going down really helped us, because then we filled local jobs at a lower fee rate, but at least kept the cash flow coming. So that's kind of how we did that. And I find myself this year doing the same thing, but more going back to older clients. They haven't done business with in 3 or 4 years. And we did that, and we kind of struck gold. We've made 3 placements with a client we haven't worked with in 5 years. So those things, those little tricks really have helped us.
Wow. And I love that story, because there's success breeds trouble. It really does, because the more successful you are, the more shortcuts you take, the more you focus on people that are doing business with you. What you're saying is you're going back and you're feeding yourself some of these people that you haven't done business with in quite a while and finding out, you know what, these guys got some bank too. We can be working with them. Good for you.
Yeah. Yep. And the other one too is a candidate side, chasing down people that you placed 6, 7, 8 years ago, finding out where they are, and then talking to them and trying to get job orders from that. That's worked also, because I tend to stay in touch with people I placed, but I think I found a guy I placed 16 years ago, and I went back there, and we ended up getting a job order from the company. So you just get creative, in your network to try to do the best you can, to squeeze as much juice out of the orange as you can, in tough times, really.
How has your landscape changed in the last 10 years?
No, geez. It's a great question. 10 years is too long.
Fair enough.
I would say the last 5, because in the last 5, I think things are accelerating to me, because in the last 4 to 5 years, the world has kind of been turned upside down because of COVID. I mean, the work from home phenomenon didn't exist pretty much. It certainly wasn't broad before COVID. Now it's all over the place. People are expecting that. So the effect of that has been pretty traumatic, you know. A lot of candidates want to work from home, or they want guarantees of working from home. So that landscape has changed. The other landscape that's changed is kind of really how businesses are going about, finding talent. The same automation I use is the same automation they're using. So in a way, it's competing with me. It's competing with us. So you have to find more of a differentiator there. The other thing is dynamic is the phone. You know, in past years, I'd say about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it really flipped. Before, 40 to 50 phone calls a day were important to make sure you're on the phone constantly. You know, a 65 to 80 call a day metric for an account executive in a business 5, 6, 7 years ago was pretty standard. Now it's not. You can make 40, 50 phone calls, never get a voicemail back, never get anybody on the phone. So the phone dynamic has changed. So it's really kind of flipped to conversations are more important than phone calls now. So you have to drive to get conversations, and you can get conversations lots of different ways. You can get conversations in LinkedIn messages. You can get them in email sequences. You can get them on phone calls. You can get them on referrals. So you kind of have to work that circle now. It's just not the phone. So really driving at conversations are more important now. You know, I try to get at least 10 conversations a day in business development, and it's tough to get that. So that dynamic has totally changed. So, you know, if I were starting again, if I were a new office, let's say I was starting right now, I would be structuring my business to try to target phone conversations more than phone volume, and figuring out, okay, what is the circle? What are the points in the circle I got to do to really get conversations? Is it LinkedIn automation messages or email sequencing or referrals? What is it? And it's phone calls too. But you're going to have to do the whole circle in order to get the conversations. That's the important thing. Now, so that dynamic has completely changed to me.
So is there a common thread? And I heard what you said. I mean, it's trying to touch people in many different ways to try and get that fun conversation. Is there a common message you're trying to send that drives those people to reach back out to you?
Yeah, the common message is really kind of enforcing the brand, right? Which has become another element in the last 5 years, becoming very important. Getting people to recognize that you're just not calling them to get a job order. You're calling them to have a business conversation about what's happening, and there's some interest there on something that's happening in the industry or something that's happening that's affecting them, okay? Or a trend that might affect them, or something you're seeing that could benefit from them having that information. That's what you got to try to dig up, and it's tough to dig up sometimes, you know, to find that common theme. So I don't know if it's a thread, but, you know, if you put yourself on the end of a hiring manager, and I talked to one the other day who replied to a video that I sent him, he called me and said, you know, you've been sending these videos to me for the last 2 years, so I figured I'd call you. 2 years, this guy, you know, and we just had a business conversation. He says, I don't have any jobs, but I just wanted to talk to you about a couple things and what you're seeing out there, you know, because he was thinking about something. So that seems to be the common thread to get through the noise. I guess is my point.
That's profound, really. It really is.
And it's tough. It's an art, I haven't mastered it, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. I don't think I've been invited to the gallery yet because my art isn't that good. But it's, you bring up a good point. When you get these people on for the first time, what do you do to gain their trust? Doesn't make any difference if it's hiring authorities or candidates. We do business because people trust us. What is it? What's your message? What do you do to gain trust? Because we're going to have clients and candidates viewing this. What's your message of value to gain trust to these people?
Well, in the conversation, if I get a hiring manager or they call me, what I want to know is about them. There's nothing better than a king wanting to talk about their kingdom, right? So I love to talk to them about their business. It's, hey, John, how's it going? Hey, I called other packaging guys out there. They're having a lot of problems getting materials from China. You guys experiencing that same thing? That's how the conversation starts. Has nothing to do with you got a job or any of that stuff. Nothing, 0, 0, 0. And it goes into that, and I kind of let them talk about their business, And I think people really appreciate when you take the time to understand what it is they do and their business and their problems. They don't want to hear your problem. They want you to fix their problem. And you can't get that unless you ask them, and you start talking to them about, their situation. Because the next email he gets from you or she gets from you probably will get opened if it's something of relevance because that person had talked to you about the business, before. So I like to do that. That's what I like to do. I'd like to do that also in my sequences too. I send a lot of industry stuff out. Hey, so-and-so, been working with a lot of packaging people. As you know, I contact them every day. Here are the trends I'm seeing. Are you seeing this? That's the email, and the response rate's pretty good. I mean, it could be no. That's it. Which, by the way, they get a phone. Anybody who replies to me gets a phone call. Gives me a phone call. So that's kind of how you have to really approach it. Because if you're selling a product, you're not going to sell anything. But if you're asking about their business and trying to figure out what the problem is, I really appreciate that. That's kind of my view on that.
So when you come across a talent out there, whether we called it MPC back in my day, impact player, whatever, but the superior talent, whatever the job function is in the manufacturing world, how do you get that person into your marketplace?
Well, there's a couple different ways I do it. I do a lot of email on that basis, but it's a very targeted email. Well, I tell you what I did this morning. I had a really good quality assurance person call me and say they're doing layoffs here, and I'm looking out. I want to get out. So I got her information. I put that together in an email that I call All-Star Candidates, and I send an All-Star Candidates list out every 2 weeks. And on that is just a quick listing of what they do, and they can click it and get their profile. You can see their profile. And the email kind of starts like, I have no idea if you need anybody. We've talked before. We're in contact. But I send this to you as a courtesy just in case, you may need someone, or it's a good gauge for you to see the talent that's in the marketplace anyway. And I send that out. And after I've been sending those out for 2 to 3 years. That's one of the best ways to get out there. The other is I just call people, I will call 10 to 15 vice presidents of quality and say, I sent an email. I just want to let you know this person's available. But if you don't need anybody, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But I just wanted you to know what's happening out here. Okay. And people appreciate that. That's kind of how I get my MPCs in the marketplace. And it is the number one way I get job orders. Number one, I get job orders. I probably get a job order a week, about a week, saying, hey, I got one 2 days ago when I sent a candidate out. And it came from an HR person that called me and said, hey, our president got this email from you and it forwarded to me, and we are looking for a production manager. Will this person move? So that starts the whole gig, and that's been for me the number one thing. But you've got to position it where it can't be a sales letter. It has to be, I'm doing you a favor by, I don't know if you have anybody, but you should know what's out here, and this is an example of what's happening out here, a consultative type of sell.
Is that the same approach you do when you're going out on a search for a candidate?
On a search for a candidate, it's you kind of flip it, because that all starts with a client interview and the job order interview. About 8 to 10 of my questions are all about culture up front. And that, by the way, differentiates us completely. I think I ask, okay, tell me about the responsibilities of the job in question 9. Okay. My first question is, give me an idea of why anybody would want to work for you guys. First question out of the box. You'd be surprised how many people can answer that question. Well, we have good benefits. We have fresh ground coffee, stuff like that. But I ask that question. And another question I ask is, if you're doing this person's review and you're walking down the aisle and you're beaming with pride, you're going to give them a 5 out of 5. What are the 3 key things they've done for you that are making this incredible? So I get that. And then the way we approach candidates is we approach candidates on several different points. Number one is culture. This company's culture is incredible. Here's examples of why. And this is something you should probably entertain. That's kind of how we start with candidates. We don't say, hey, I got a quality job, we don't start that way. So that's kind of how we approach it with candidates, because right now you have to pay attention to surveys out there. LinkedIn does a lot of them. It shows what are the value points of this generation and Gen Z. One of the number ones is culture. They want a company with great culture. Now, work from home has come up, right? Now, what's interesting is now salary's back on top. So you kind of have to gear your approach that way, because the way what you want is you want the candidate to say, I want to know more. That's my goal. On the first email or the first call, I want to know more. And then you can get into a conversation, with them. That's how I approach it.
You're right about culture. And you're right about this, starting a conversation, really building the culture, the environment that you're presenting before you get into, do you want to make a change? It's
definitely
kind of bringing roses to the front door before you say a word.
Yeah, and they want to know, why. Like I have one client, they don't work weekends. So that's my first email. Would you like to work for a company that was rated XXY on culture and a committed management team that refuses to have their people work on weekends? You tell that to a production manager who works, swing shift and Mondays and Sundays and Saturdays, you get people's attention. So it's a big deal. It's bigger than we think it is. The little tiny things are a lot bigger. And often I sometimes forget about that. People will listen to that first before they listen to the job.
Well, and you bring up a good point. That's what a great message to send in a voicemail and an email. Because to your point, even if they weren't aggressively looking for a new opportunity, but passively thinking about it, they're going to reach out to you. And boy, once you get them into a conversation then you just, like you said, make it all about them.
Yeah, what's also kind of interesting is, this is kind of a funny note. I do it all the time. I'm sure you do. I get a lot of emails. I probably get 300 emails a day. I read the first sentence, then I click delete. Everybody does it. So you have to expect that, you know? And so any email I do is no more than 2 sentences for anything. That's why I send video, because people are more apt to do video or see a video and say, okay, well, this is interesting. So again, it's kind of being different and appealing to a person's curiosity more than anything.
I love the differentiators. I really do. What's your vision for top tier talent advisors for the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Well, I started the business having, I think we got up to 4 or 5 AEs in the office, and we ran that for about 10 years. And then slowly, as people left, I just went solo, and I've been solo for, I think, more than 10 years now. And now I'm at a kind of a crossroads. So I may think about hiring again. I'm starting to think that way. I do have a PC that works with me. And I also have overseas people that work. So I might be looking for another couple of business development people, because I'd like to kind of branch out. And as the economy recovers, I think into next year, that may be the vision. And then I'll just probably hang around, you know. I don't know what else, what other vision there would be, you know, just I enjoy what I do. You know, they say, you know, love what you do, don't work another day in your life. So I'm still here, and I'll be here for a while. I don't have any plan right now retiring. So
you've been at this for so long. You're very successful at what you do. What does Mike Santiago do to unwind?
There's a lot of good whiskey here in Tennessee. Yeah. No, I think, you know, I'm type of guy that I'm really, really good at, when day is done, walking out and totally forgetting about everything. Yeah, I do sometimes get on the phone after 6, but I'm pretty good at that. I'm an avid pickleball player. I can admit to that. I'm avid do that. And, you know, basically that's it. I have a lot of friends and kind of hang out and do things. I don't do anything super special. You know, I don't climb mountains or I don't do anything. I'm an ex-college football player, so I can't do too much because my body will fall apart. All my friends do they do this CrossFit stuff. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'll totally fall apart. So, you know, I meet him for beers after they do CrossFit. That's my workout. So
you're part of their recovery.
Yeah, I've been married for 42 years now, and I'm my beautiful wife, and spent a lot of time together, and we travel a bit and do some things. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, you live in a wonderful part of the country. I mean, music, barbecue, whiskey. I mean,
oh yeah,
make it easy not to even leave the house at times.
Yeah, we moved here from Illinois. We had the office in Illinois, and we're happy we did. I wish I could have done it 15 years ago, but happy we did.
What part of Illinois?
We were in Libertyville, Illinois. That's kind of the north part. We moved the office from there, and then we moved here to Tennessee. Sold the house, closed the office there, got my 40-foot RV and took off, and I had no idea where we were going to live. I had 4 dogs. I was working from the RV for 5 months. And then my wife said, we have to find a place to live. I'm leaving. So we ended up in Cookeville accidentally. So here we are. We love it.
Oh, gosh, what a great story. So looking back, what message would you give somebody wanting to break into this business today?
Here's what I would say. I don't typically look in the rearview mirror of what I should have done and what I should not have done. Okay, I don't think that's productive. But if a person's coming into the business today, understand exactly what it is you want to do. Do you want to be a solo desk, or do you want to grow a business with a whole bunch of people in it and have account executives and things of that nature? You have to understand in this business, there's a pretty strict process, and following that process is very, very important. If you're coming in with MRI, there's a really, really good chance you will have success, because MRI has always been a process leader in this business. And understanding metrics. If you're going to hire people, the key element here is really understanding metrics and setting the objectives for account executives up front and getting them to agree that they will perform to these metrics, and you demanding that they perform to those metrics. That is very, very important. If you do that, you'll have a good chance, I believe, to be successful in this business. It also takes a lot of market research. And the people that are super successful in this business, I found, are the niche players. Okay. People that are in a segment of the market and they're doing 2 or 3 different positions, and they know that market cold, and everybody in that market knows them. The niche players are the guys that are the big billers, I think. And there have been several over the years I've kind of noticed. That is one thing that I wish I had done better earlier instead of being broad. So those are the things that I would suggest people, and know this before you get in. Know where you're going to recruit. Know what your business is going to be. Know where your niche is going to be. Okay? Understand there's a process. Do your work up front. If you're going to buy a franchise, to understand what the process is. And my suggestion is go to a recruiter's office and work there for a week. Then decide if you really want to do this, because that's what I did, and it worked.
That's great. So as a wrap-up, Mike, I've known you for a long time. Don't remember if we've had a chance to actually meet or not, but I've seen you around. I've read your emails. I've listened to you talk and so forth. Do you have a question for me?
Yeah. In reflecting, in your past, what do you think maybe the single biggest thing that you did that allowed you to have success?
I have to tell you, the single biggest thing would have to be not having the choice to not listen. I was hired by Jim Dykman, who started this office back in the early 80s, and he absolutely bought into MRI's training hardcore. And what he did is he held me true when I came to work for him. He held me true without question to that basic training. And I think it goes along a little bit with what you were just saying of what you would have told yourself or somebody coming into this business is join an organization that has good training and don't try to recreate the wheel. Because MRI had been around a long time when I came into this business, and it's still around, owned by a different company now, but the fact of the matter still remains the finest training there is in the whole industry. And if you stay disciplined to the basics, don't get overcomplicated. You mentioned it earlier. There's so many things that could consume you every day, all day. But just stay focused. So I would have to attribute it to not being given the opportunity to not listen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you relate to that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting because you hire AEs a lot of times, and they want to reinvent the wheel or give you excuses of why that doesn't work. We've all been there on that one. So you're absolutely right. Simple is better in this business. The simpler you are, the better you're off you are. Really.
Makes my life a lot easier. It really does. Well,
yeah.
Michael, I thank you very, very much for taking the time today and for us getting an opportunity to spend some time and get to know each other a little bit. you've got a great business. There's no doubt in my mind that your passion is going to continue to drive your success. And if there's ever anything that I can ever do to help, please reach out and give me a call.
Well, thank you very much. And it's an honor to be here with you. Okay. And I'm humbled because there are so many incredible MRI owners out there that have done way more than I have done. But it's kind of fun to be able to kind of share, the journey. So I thank you for that.